Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the weekly meeting. How's everyone's week going?
Progress.
Good.
So this week we're just doing like a question and answer type thing, just to get a pulse of where everyone's at. We've been pushing out a lot of kind of licensed agent focused material. We tried to tailor it a little bit just to make it a little more applicable to everyone as far as like the calls you can be making just as a regular person, reaching out to family and friends, letting them know that you've transitioned to a new profession. But now we want to get a pulse of where you guys are at right now. What kind of questions you have about the program, about real estate in general. So go ahead and start dropping those questions in the chat box, or you can also chime in by unmuting yourself. So that we don't have people talking over each other, just go ahead and raise your hand and then I'll call on you in the order that your hand is raised, and then we can start getting those questions answered. All right, who has a question?
I got one.
Send it. Chris?
How are you guys doing with your how are you doing as far as representing buyers? Getting buyers, are things getting any better, or are they just kind of staying the same? Getting them to purchase properties.
You mean as far as the quantity, or just in general getting a buyer?
Yeah. Getting these buyers in this environment to purchase anything. Is it in the last I guess in the last, just an update on the last couple of weeks. That would be my question. Just the last couple of weeks.
Great question. All right, so the first question that I'll answer is how to get buyers in the first place. And I would say the easiest way to do that is by sitting open houses. So the way you find an open house to sit, the easiest way for EXP agents is to go on Workplace and just make yourself available in your state room. So whatever state you're in, you search that state name, you'll find it'll say State of Hawaii Workplace Group. Join that group, and then in there just every week, hey, I'm available this weekend if anyone needs me, or during the week as well, because there's brokers opens. Most of the time it's represented agents that attend those meetings, but you're still getting your face out there. But for Sundays, usually 2 to 5 is the standard open house hours. So you can say, hey, I'm available on Sunday or Saturday to sit in open house. And then when you're sitting in the open house, you obviously have a sign-in sheet where people sign in and check if they're represented and who their agent is, or if they're not represented and need an agent. And so those would be the people you'd focus on and reach out to after the open house, or establish that relationship while they're there, and see if they want to work with you. So that's how you can get buyers. There's lots of other ways. You can try cold calling people to see if they want to buy a house. That's another way of doing it, but I would say the easiest way, especially for a brand new agent, is by sitting open houses. Now, to get them to actually buy, that's a whole nother animal, and I feel like that's why Chris is asking that, because you might find somebody that's interested, that's saw an open house sign and decided to stop by, but then when you actually talk to them about buying, they're like, oh yeah, anywhere from the next 6 months to the next 6 years, I'm thinking about buying. And it's like, all right, how do I make this? How do I build a sense of urgency for this person? And so the way you do that is just by laying out the data for them. Go on the MLS, show how the market is trending and how it's trended in the past, how in the past the market has dipped a little bit, but overall the property values have gone up. I would say that's the best way. A book that comes to mind when I'm thinking about this is Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone. One of the things he talks about in there is just show them the facts instead of like talking about it. Instead of me, like, if you guys were buyers right now and I'm trying to convince you to buy a house, instead of me saying, oh, it's a great time, you're going to make a tremendous amount of equity over the next 5 years of owning the house, and when you sell it, you're going to have a big profit. Instead of just using these words to describe what the benefits are, like actually show them the facts. Hey, this is what the multiple listing service website shows. This is how many people bought last year. this is how many have bought this year. Yes, there's a little bit of a drop, but if you rewind to 10 years ago, this is how many people were buying at that point before the 2008 bubble, et cetera.
Yeah, he had a phone call.
This is where we're at now. And so you can see it's a different situation that happened back in 2008 compared to now.
Are you on Zoom?
And so that's kind of better, contributes to a better situation for this, because right now people are just not buying because the interest rates are going up. Interest rates go up and down. And so if you buy right now, you can do this 2-1 buy down program that's offered by a lot of lenders. And that'll allow you for the first year to have a more reasonable interest rate. And then in a year from now or less, if rates go down, you can refinance, and then you'll be right back at where people were buying a year ago with those low interest rates. And then also showing them like drawing on a piece of paper or whatever you have, if you want to prepare in advance for different situations, draw out a chart of I'm trying to pull it up right here. Whiteboards, new whiteboard. Can everyone see my whiteboard? Give a thumbs up if you can see my whiteboard, or just say yes. Okay. All right. So you can show them on this chart, like, okay, I think I've done this before. You're right here where that little black line is. And if you go live on base, you're going to, over the course of the next 3 years, or if you rent, whatever the situation is, whoever the client is, if you rent over the next 3 years, let's say this number down here is, let's say $2,000 times 30 months, $60,000. So there's $60,000 over the course of the next 3 years. You're going to have given base housing $60,000. And then explain to them, a lot of people think if I live on base or if I rent, that I'm at this middle line here. Let me change the color. I'm good to go if I'm on this green line, because I haven't lost any money on buying a house and haven't, I'm renting, so I'm kind of staying at a level playing field. But you've lost $60,000 over the course of the next 3 years. And then you show them the line if they buy, and I'll make that blue. And so if you buy that $60,000, it's not going to be exactly 60K going towards your equity, but let's say it's about 45, because some of that goes towards your interest because you're using financing to buy that house. Let's say it's 45K. And then, but the other thing that you're not accounting for, which is kind of unknown, but again, this is where it comes back to showing them the data from the MLS. So you can say, like, over the course of the past 20 years, the value of houses has gone up by 4.5% each year. Yes, there are 2 or 3 years here and there where the housing values might have plummeted, but over the long term, it's gone up by whatever the percentage is. For Hawaii, it's 4.5% per year. So then you say, okay, well, over the next 3 years, your house will go up by whatever amount of money that is, and you're up here at, let's say, 75K of equity. And then so you show them like this on a piece of paper so they can actually see what they're missing out on, and you're not just talking in words of, oh, you're going to have a big amount of equity and a big amount of money lost if you rent. And then you show the disparity between where they could be if they buy and hold for 3 years until they PCS, or however long that period is, and then show them the distance between 75K to 60K. And so really it's missing out on over $100,000 easily, where if they buy compared to renting. And that's just one scenario. Like if their pain point is losing money over the long term, that's one technique you could use with them to educate them. They might have, the key is finding their pain point or pleasure point. And so with military, a lot of times it's just a matter of like safety, security, proximity to the base, and then third to that is probably the financial aspect. With a lot of civilian folks, it's probably more focused on the finances, maybe like the style of the home and the layout, how it's going to fit their family, that kind of thing. But yeah, does that answer your question, Chris? And then we have another question from Casey. Go ahead, Casey.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, I didn't have a question. I just kind of wanted to add on. I did find some success when I also tell them, hey, you're qualifying at these 7% rates. So in like 5 years, if they go down or whatever, and you refinance, you're basically cutting your like mortgage payment in half on top of the equity you're getting. So it'd be like finding an extra $600 a month, and you know, instead of your rent just going up, you know, each year, it's like you're actually going to save money in 5 years when you refinance. So that also helps kind of they turn their head like, oh yeah, you know. Like, and then, you know, also like Robert Kiyosaki, that's how he made a ton of money, is refinancing and rates went down. So you can qualify at 7%. Imagine, you know, at 3% when you're saving all that money. So just wanted to offer that one as well.
Yeah, it's a great one. One of the phrases that people were using or telling people to use in the fast forward movement, Monday morning mastermind meeting, is date the rate, or marry the house, date the rate. So the house you choose, you're going to be with that house for forever. And then with the rate, you're dating that rate because you can, like Casey just said, you can refinance and get a better rate when rates change. A lot of times people think like, oh, well, rates are 10%, and that's an insane amount of money to be paying in interest. And let's say they're 10%, and then all of a sudden they drop to what they were this time last year, like 3%. There goes, you know, $1,000 of your mortgage that you no longer have to pay because your interest rate just got better. But yes, it's unfortunate that for that year that you had that high rate, you had to pay that amount of money. But when you refinance, you're in a whole different situation, and you're starting to work towards having a lot more equity and you make your payment each month. All right. Looking in the comment box, how was my first day? Very excited to be here. Welcome, Joey. And someone else said, my son stood home with me today, putting him down for a nap. Okay. Any other questions?
Hi. So I have a question about, so everyone keeps talking about like there's a recession coming and all that stuff. So obviously it makes it a lot harder, especially like on the, like especially like if you're a new agent, and like this like whole recession thing is like a kind of like a worry factor, I guess. So how can like you as like a new agent kind of like navigate that so that you're kind of, I mean, it's not going to be easy, but kind of just prepare yourself and then prepare yourself for the worst so you can make it better eventually.
I would say the biggest way is having market knowledge. And the way a lot of times you hear that, especially as a new agent, you think, well, market knowledge comes from being in the market for an extended period of time. But that's really not the case. And a lot of times, you know, people that have been in the game for forever, they just go off of what they experienced and not the actual data. And so if you get in the books of looking at the data in the MLS, you can use that to show that you're a knowledgeable person, that you're going to get your client into a good situation financially. And I'm pulling up my MLS real quick just to give you an idea of what that looks like. Are you licensed, Carrie? Are you almost there?
Almost.
Okay.
But, like, I also know that, like, I guess it varies from state to state. Like, I'm in California, so I know it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So like, whereas like, you know, like Texas, like everyone wants to go buy a house in Texas. So it's just like, what is like the difference between like the two, or like from state to state, you know?
The difference in the market, you mean?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, that's another, it's all the same stuff as far as like showing the market, showing the facts about the market. Let me show you this page here real quick. So this is what my MLS looks like. And you can see these different apps that are on here. The big one for showing data for the market is this InfoSparks. I think that might be a standard product across different MLS platforms for different states, but there's all these different options that you can change. So what we see right here on this chart is median sales price for single family and condo townhouse over the past 3 years. So if you're talking to somebody and they're like scared about the market and how it is right now, you can do the 10 years option or even the max, which I think is like 20 years. So back to 2005. So it's like 17 years of data right here. So you can see that the line is trending upward. And depending on if they're military, you might want to keep it to the 3-year chart or the 5-year. You can still show them the full amount, but in order to explain to them, like, this is the time span that you're working with. And so you can put them, you can say, all right, you're right here at December of 2018. And everyone was talking about the market dropping because the average went from 590 down to 538. So this is where you could be right now. It's where you might be. And then all of a sudden it starts spiking up and then it goes back down, and then kind of talk them through, like, this could be you right here. And then fast forward to 3 years later when you're getting ready to PCS, and boom, your house has gone up by over $100,000 in value. And you just use the actual facts, the actual data from the nerds that are collecting all this data, and to show them, like, this is what it is, and not just round numbers that the news is pushing out. Because right now, like in Hawaii, I saw some headlines about it said like housing values plummeting, and then they actually showed numbers, like actual data, and they say, oh, the current median house price is 1.1 million, and like that plummeting. Like this time last year, the average single family house was worth $1 million. We're now $100,000 above that. I wouldn't say that's plummeting, but your client who, they're focused on just living life, not knowing everything about the housing market. They see the headline and like housing values plummeting, and they're like, oh crap, I'm not going to buy this. The news says that the houses are plummeting, so this is a bad time to buy. And so that's why you combat that poor education that they're getting from the news with the facts from your MLS. Does that help? And yeah, the important part is having the good data. On here, another thing that I learned recently is that for all of Hawaii, the entire MLS, who's so it says entire MLS. So whatever part of what state are you in, Terry?
California.
All right, so like if you're like way at the northern tip of, I don't really know much about California, but I know LA is super expensive. But let's say you're in LA and the MLS for whatever reason defaults to the entire state. If you need to make sure you go in here and refine it to just LA, if that's where you're selling, or whatever area you're in, so that it gives you solid data. Because so this is for all of Hawaii, or for all of Oahu. And so if I go in here and put a particular zip code, and you see that the average home value jumps drastically, just based off of the zip code that you're focusing on, or it could drop drastically. Like if I went somewhere to a different part of the island, it might, like people might be looking at data that's not entirely accurate for the area that they're in, and that could not go as it should unless you do. All right, what other questions? Looks like Harrison Haynes. Sorry, I didn't see your hand raised at first.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good, are you?
Good. So I'm pretty new to the program, about like a month in. So right now I'm just pretty much focusing on getting my license. That's what I'm like spending most of my time on. But is there anything else you suggest that I should be like starting to look forward to or starting to do?
So I strongly recommend keeping a balance between studying for your licensing exams and doing the training on Go Group University. When I was going through, I was just like 100% focused on just getting my license because I was in the mindset of Hawaii is super expensive. In order for me to stay afloat out here, I'm gonna have to start producing fresh out the gate, out of the military, and so that's all I was just focusing on first. Looking back, I wish I would have focused more on those fundamentals. So that's one thing, and then the other thing is just reaching out to your friends and family. Your sphere of influence is what realtors refer to it as. Just calling people in your contacts list in your phone, go A to Z, even the most random person. If it's just some random person that you save their number because you worked with them on some kind of training exercise and they had the keys to the gate at range control or something, just still call them. Like still use that as an opportunity to learn, because that's going to give you the experience of calling a random person, which you will do eventually. And so it'll give you the ability to see like, okay, I'm calling this random person. We have nothing in common. Probably not going to remember me. And just like, hey, and just start that forward conversation with them. Say like, hey, we crossed paths a while ago, but I'm transitioning out of the military. Just wanted to offer my services to you, see how things are going. Wherever you're at in the country, I can help you out with whatever, whether you're buying or selling. I can help you find a professional agent to work with, etc. So yeah, focus it. Yeah, obviously the number one focus right now is getting your license and passing those exams. And then secondary to that, I would say keeping balance with studying the fundamentals and GGU. And then after that, reaching out to friends and family. The key to like keeping all that stuff in order is like the scheduling stuff that we've talked about. Time blocking, instead of just like, all right, Monday I'm studying, Tuesday I'm doing GGU, Wednesday I'm calling people. Like spread it out. Like, all right, Monday from this hour to this hour studying, and then for an hour after that I'm going to call people, and then the rest of the day I'm going to do GGU. I would say split it up like that, whatever like fits your style, because if you're just trying to do everything all at once, you'll get burnt out.
Sure.
Does that help, Harrison?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Yep. What state are you in?
I'm in California.
Okay.
San Diego.
Lots of Californians.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question.
All right.
So how do you feel about like real estate assisting? Because I was just thinking maybe like that would be a good route to take, since like I'm not familiar with how to sell a house or anything like that. So just learning under someone else's wing, just in case like I mess it up or something, would be better. But what do you think?
Yeah, that's a great avenue to take if you're kind of nervous about it, especially since it'll provide you with like more steady income when you're first starting out. Because like if you don't have a paycheck to rely on when you're coming straight from the military, it can be a little scary. If you're going after like making it your number one focus to start finding buyers and sellers, it'll work out eventually. But if you're still kind of hesitant and feeling that fear of saying goodbye to the steady paycheck from the military and need like a little more gradual transition, that's actually a great route to take. But you still want to get your license, because what you can do is be a transaction manager or transaction coordinator. Different places refer to it by different names, but the licensed transaction coordinators or transaction managers, they get paid more than just because just regular unlicensed people can be transaction managers. And basically what they do is just make sure that all these forms are filled out and like sent out, emailed, etc. And but if you're licensed, you will get paid more for doing that. And you can pair up with a team and be paid a certain amount, like per file, however they work it out. On our team, we pay our transaction manager $500 per file. And so if your team is a top producing team and you're getting, you're doing like 5 transactions for them per month, which really isn't that much. You could probably easily handle, like 10. There's a $5,000 check each month right there. So yeah, that's my opinion on that. And then that'll also show you like, because at first it seems like, all right, working with buyers and handling a transaction, it's just like this big black hole of, I don't know what's going to happen. But when you are physically handling that transaction and you'll probably know more about the transaction than the agents that are, attracting those buyers and sellers. You'll just have the confidence to go out there and find buyers and sellers and work with them yourself after a few iterations of doing that.
So like how long? I know they said like I guess the average like lifespan of like an assistant, I guess is like somewhere between like 18 and like 24 months or something like that. I feel like that's a little too long. So like what would you like suggest is like a good amount of time where you're like, okay, like I have a good grip on things, like it's time for me to do things on my own?
I would say at least 6 months minimum. Especially like if your end goal is to become like a full-time realtor, I would say 6 months minimum. That'll give you enough time to see, because your average transaction takes 30 to 45 days. And so within that 6 month period, that's really only like 3 or 4 full transactions. Like if they were all lined up start to end, you'll probably see a lot more within that, but at least seeing one transaction 4 times, that'll give you, the base level of understanding of how it works. But yeah, if some people just want to do transaction management, like it's enough money to pay the bills for them, and they're comfortable just sitting behind the computer and just handling emails instead of going out there, sitting open houses and talking to people and convincing people it's a good idea to sell or buy. Some people would rather have that comfort, and it offers a lot of flexibility too, because when you're the agent, you're kind of flexing your schedule around the schedule of your clients, instead of when you're a transaction manager, you just got to be available to respond to those emails, which a lot of it you can do from your phone. So but yeah, as far as timeline to do it, I would say minimum 6 months, probably a year would give you a full little sneak peek into all these different situations, because you're going to learn so much from every transaction. And that's why we tell people to hurry up and get your license so you can start, getting involved with transactions. Each transaction is going to be a new learning experience. There's going to be something in the beginning that you learn on one file, and then on another file it's going to be like that, just before closing date, you're going to learn some kind of weird thing that you need to be aware of. And so about a year would give you the full understanding, and you're ready to be chomping at the bit to get out there and get your own clients. All right, who else? I have a question for Matt Rawl. Is that waxing that sweet mustache, or is that natural?
No, it's it's waxed.
Yeah.
I literally just got out of the military like a week and a half ago, and somehow I was able to twirl it up, and nobody said anything, so I just kept going.
Nice, looks good.
Thanks.
Get your business card headshots done with that thing on.
Yeah.
A lot of like when you're branding yourself is, being unique compared to the masses. Some people just like to go with the usual, like put on a business suit and tie and get a professional photo with like nothing in the background. And then other people like doing other things, like having a mustache. Like there's a loan officer that I know of that like his like signature thing is having this mustache with the curly handlebars. But people will recognize you, like on the street or at other events where you're meeting other agents. They'll be like, oh, I saw your business card at whatever cafe, or I saw your face on some kind of Facebook ad. So that's just something to think of, like how are you going to brand yourself? And there's more that goes into it than just like your physical appearance. It's also like colors, your phrase that you have on your business card, all that stuff. All right. Any other questions? We're almost at the 30-minute mark. And then Casey Leip in the chat box said, a lot of people need good TCs. It's a good way to learn, or even for people that are not super into talking to people, investors will also pay good money for a great TC. Yeah, it's a good point. Because a lot of times there's investors that have their real estate license and they just don't want to deal with the emailing back and forth and handling the files and compliance and all that stuff. And so, yeah, if you're a solid TC and you're licensed, they can just push off all that work to you, which sounds like a lot of work, but it's actually easy for you because you're already streamlined in doing it. Yeah, it's a good option. Any other questions before we wrap it up? Doesn't have to be specific to license stuff. It could be anything in general. All righty. I'll stick around for a few more minutes in case there's some folks who wanted to ask a question in a smaller forum, but everyone else, thanks for coming to the meeting. Get out there, get after it, get your license, and start generating.